Hood, you have the call.
Thank you. I just want to let them...
No, don't get upsettled.
Jeez. Could I just go, Ms. Dave, I just thought, despite what the Chair says, I just thought you might want to just get your papers in order.
She was born ready.
She was born ready, okay. Can I just go to an issue that, at February estimates, I asked where the report was. This is the safety case in respect of the land and halt short operations at Melbourne, and you're familiar with that. I think, Mr. Hood, you're familiar with that issue. There was a toing and froing over the past few months about a safety case in respect of that I think I was assured by Air Services would be provided. I don't appear to, unless I'm mistaken, I don't appear to have been provided with that report.
Senator, are we talking... sorry, can I just clarify? You're talking about the LASO report that we promised we would furnish to you?
That's right.
Yes. That was sent to your office on Friday, so I apologise, it was later than...
Was it sent to the committee, though?
And it was sent to the committee, to the Chair as well.
Righto.
Well, come on, Hep, where is it?
Have you got that report? I'll ask the...
That's the Secretary. You seen him,
Anyhow.
So we do have acknowledgement
Checks in the mail, is it?
Senator.
Stop it. Stop.
It was about, I think the timing was 1500. It was mid-afternoon. We got a receipt from your office, Senator Xenophon, to say it read, so I don't know if who received it.
Email.
But we do have acknowledgement from the Secretariat for the committee that it was received.
Right, and this is the safety case. So
No, Senator, it was an investigation that we conducted into the land.
And can you summarise that investigation?
Yes, just in the main, there were 3 areas that we identified, and then I'll ask Mr Hood to go through some of the detail. The 3 areas, there was ambiguity in the rule set around the operation of LASO in the, on the passive runway. That was the first thing that we found. Right. The second thing, in respect to one of the concerns that you certainly raised, where one of the controllers raised the issue and he felt he hadn't been heard properly. The matter is, in fact, the management did discuss it, but because of the ambiguity of the rules, they believed it was operating safely.
So, Ms Dave, do you say that the ambiguity of the rules is something that is now being cleared up?
Yes, it has, and I'll get Greg to go through that.
But the ambiguity in the rules, but you don't see that there was a breach of the rules?
No, we do not.
Right. But the ambiguity of the rules did
meant there was room for interpretation.
Risk, and that in turn imposed a safety risk?
We don't believe so.
A potential safety risk?
Not the way it was operating, no, we do not believe so. Right. And Senator, the third thing was in terms of our SMS, you raised issues around our SMS. Yep. The SMS is robust, but in that instance, there were 2 steps that we did not comply with.
Right. And what were those 2 steps?
I'll just get Mr Hood to go through the detail if you're okay with that.
Sure.
So, Senator, thank you. Greg Hood, Executive General Manager at Traffic Control. Basically, the steps were when we removed the use of LASO on runway 09, when we commenced construction of the new tower, we should have completed a safety case determination, and once again, when we reintroduced that procedure, we should have done the same thing.
Okay.
But, Senator, if I may suggest, we're happy to take you through. It's quite a... Dr Weaver and his safety team did a comprehensive review. You know, we're not here to be defensive in relation to that report, but my view is that when you read the report, you'll see it's a warts and all report, and we accept, certainly I accept accountability for the implementation of the changes that we've made.
We're just trying to get a copy of
sure.
it, so can I just ask that in reference to question notice number 149, ASA, well, no, actually, just can I go to the issue in relation to the LASO, because I just want to ask you this question, Mr Hood. You were an operational controller, is that correct?
For 35 years, Senator, that's correct.
Okay, so you know a thing or two about air traffic control, and well respected by your colleagues. Now, if I can put this, if the wind is 160 degrees at 15 knots and the runway direction is 263, and the runway is wet, we're talking about Melbourne, and the runway is wet, can that runway be nominated for use?
So, Senator, the runway nomination conditions are: if the runway is completely dry, the crosswind component, including gusts, cannot be nominated if it exceeds 20 knots, the downwind 5 knots. For runways that are wet, the crosswind component, including gusts, exceeds 20 knots, or if there is any downwind component.
So if the wind is 160 degrees and 15 knots, and the runway direction is 263 and the runway is wet, that runway can't be nominated for use though, can it?
27.
I mean, my understanding is just in the technical information I've been given is that given that the wind would generate 1 to 2 knots of tailwind, can that runway be nominated for use?
If there is any component of tailwind on the wet runway, no, that's correct, Senator. They cannot nominate it as a runway.
Right. And therefore it would be in breach of the rules, wouldn't it?
But
are you saying the rule's ambiguous?
Because the pilots may still request that runway, Senator, and depending on the circumstances at the time, an ATC may still process an aircraft on that runway at pilot request. So a pilot in command ultimately must ensure that the runway is suitable for the operations of his aircraft.
But it would still breach the rules, wouldn't it? But you wouldn't want to be landing in those circumstances.
So we would not nominate the runway. We would not say that this is the runway you must land on. But for example, we often, several times a week, will have an aircraft with a medical emergency on board, a heart attack, for example. In Melbourne, the quickest way of unloading a heart attack patient off the aeroplane is to land on 09 and roll through to the terminal. So quite often we will get requests for the use of a runway which doesn't specifically comply with our runway nomination criteria.
But you're saying that the rules were ambiguous, is that right?
Yeah, I think, Senator, in the report you'll see that there was a conflict between the passages of the AIP which relate to LASO operations versus the section of the AIP that relates to nomination of runways.
Okay.
And we're not being defensive about it. I think when you read the report, you'll see it's a warts and all report, and we could have done better in some areas.
I think we'll need to sort of observe, go through it.
Senator Xenophon, would it assist if I flick to someone else while we come up with a report?
It wouldn't, because sadly, given there's only one of me, I've got to bid another estimates.
Righto.
Sorry.
Chair, if I may, in my response with that report, I did offer a briefing to the committee or any members of the committee if they felt that would be useful as we go through the report.
Sure, and I think there'll be other opportunities. You're saying there's ambiguity. What pilots and air traffic controllers have conveyed to me is that they felt that there was a real issue with LASO, and that it compromised safety. You don't accept that there would have been circumstances such as a wet runway, a 160-degree wind at 15 knots with a tailwind that would actually be quite problematic.
So there's two issues there, Senator. Firstly, may I address LASO? Air Services is satisfied that LASO, as published and has now clarified by our interim Manual of Air Traffic Services amendment, there is no ambiguity. I'm satisfied with the operation of LASO. With respect to the nomination of runways, I'll be happy if you have any specific circumstances whereby we might have nominated runways outside of the runway nomination criteria as per the AIP.
Yeah, but, okay, maybe we're talking about cross purposes, but the RepCon involved using a runway that was problematic in terms of wind speed and tailwinds and the like.
So I'm not familiar with that. Is this which RepCon are we referring to?
I'll go back a step.
Okay.
Can we just go to the issue that I've raised with the ATSB about the Melbourne Tower and Essendon Tower, that 3-hour period? The ATSB has relied on WebTrack, which is publicly available, which has all sorts of caveats and limitations in terms of its use. What I'm trying to establish is that do the radar tapes for that period, that 3-hour period, where there was no contact between, as there should have been, between Melbourne and Essendon, do the radar tapes still exist? How long do you keep radar tapes?
Senator, the radar tapes are kept for 30 days.
That's it?
That's it.
And as a result of the Cirrus, Were the radar tapes kept longer?
I'd have to take that one on notice, Senator, but in relation to your previous conversations with the ATSB and with CASA in relation to why didn't the Cirrus notify a 3-hour breakdown in coordination. So Cirruses are submitted as an immediately notifiable, so we try and notify incidents that have occurred in the air traffic management system as soon as practicable, which won't have all the details in there, so that, you know, when the Cirrus was submitted, we may not necessarily have known that was out for the coordination was null and void for the 3-hour period.